So freaking like. So it says. To repeat itself twice, a town wall of Haran was the site of significant events in one's family story. Here, Rebecca met Eliezer, Abraham's servant, who had come to find a wife for Isaac. Some 40 years later, Rebecca's son, Jacob, returned the favor by serving his cousin Rachel and her sheep from the same well. The relationship that developed between them not only reminds us that romance is not modern invention, but also teaches us a few lessons about patience and love. Jacob's love for Rachel was both patient and practical. Jacob had the patience to wait 7 years for her, but he kept busy in the meantime. His commitment to Rachel kindled a strong loyalty within her. In fact, her loyalty to Jacob grew out of the hand and became self-destructive. She was frustrated by her inferiority and desperate to compete with her sister for Jacob's affection. And she was trying to gain from Jacob what he had already given devoted love. Rachel's attempt to earn the unearnable, are a picture of a much greater error we can make. Like her, we can find ourselves trying somehow to earn love, God's love, but apart from his word, the Bible, we end up with one of two false ideas. Either we think we've been good enough to deserve his love, or we recognize that we aren't able to earn his love and assume that it cannot be ours. If the Bible makes no other point, it shouts this one thing: God loves us unconditionally. His love had no beginning and is incredibly patient. All we need to do is respond, not try to earn what is freely offered. God has said in many ways, I love you. I have demonstrated that love to you by all I have done for you. I have even sacrificed my son, Jesus Christ, to pay the price for what is unacceptable about you. Your sin, my sin. Now live because of my love. Respond to me. Love me with your whole being, giving yourself to me in thanksgiving, not as a payment. Live life fully in the freedom of knowing you are loved. What is the strength and accomplishments of Rachel? She showed great loyalty to her family and was able by God to give birth to Joseph Benjamin after many years of inferiority. And the weaknesses and mistakes was envy and competition, cockiness that married her relationship with her sister Leah and stole her father's idols and lied about it. Failed to recognize that Jacob's devotion was not dependent on her ability to have children. The lessons from her life: loyalty must be controlled by what is true and right. Love is accepted, not earned. The vital statistics were Haran, application, shepherd, household manager, and relatives: father Laban, aunt Rebecca, sister Leah, and husbands: Jacob, son through Bala, sons through her servant Bala, and then in captivity, biological sons Joseph and Benjamin. Genesis chapter 29 verse 20. So Jacob worked 7 years to pay for Rachel, but his love for her was so strong that it seemed to him but a few days to him. Kind of man like that. Yes, honey, let's see me. Where do you want? Okay.
Chapter 31. Jacob flees from Laban. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude toward him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your father and grandfather, and to your relatives there, and I will be with you." So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field, where he was watching his flock. He said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, 'The striped animals will be your wages,' then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, 'Jacob.' And I replied, 'Yes, here I am.' The angel said, 'Look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth.' Rachel and Leah responded, 'That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women, and after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children, so go ahead and do whatever God has told you.' So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Padan and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away, shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God had appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, "I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone." Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. "What do you mean by stealing away like this?" Laban demanded. "How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you steal away? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music, accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, 'Leave Jacob alone.' I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home, but why have you stolen my gods?" "I rushed away because I was afraid," Jacob answered. "I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, see if you can find them, and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours, and I will give it back." But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen household items. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then the tents of the 2 servant wives. But he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent. But Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. "What's my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you've found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us before our relatives for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years earning your 2 daughters and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. Jacob's treaty with Laban. Then Laban replied to Jacob, these women are my daughters. These children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a witness to our commitment. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, gather some stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Galil, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, this pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today. This explains why it was called Galil, witness pile. But it was also called Mitzvah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, may the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, God will see it even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as witnesses of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones or this monument to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of my grandfather Nahor, to serve as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. Chapter 32. As Jacob started on his way again, angels of God came to meet him.
We're not that far.
When Jacob's...
So it says, Genesis chapter 31, verse 1 2. Jacob's wife made Laban's son jealous. It is sometimes difficult to be happy when others are doing better than we are. To compare our success with that of others is a dangerous way to judge the quality of our lives. By comparing ourselves to others, we may give in to jealousy a foothold. We can avoid jealousy by rejoicing in others' success. See Romans chapter 12, verse 15. So Romans chapter 12, 15. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice. Romans chapter 12, verse 15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Be happy with those who are happy, and weep with those who weep, and laugh with your happy friends. When they're happy, share their tears. When they're down, share your comfort with them. The main point remember is that rejoice with those who rejoice when others are experiencing joy, happiness, or celebration. Christians should share in that emotion and be genuinely happy for them. Weep with those being weak. When others are going through hardship, sorrow, or difficult times, Christians should come alongside them and express their sympathy and mourn with them. The idea is that we should enter into the emotional experiences of others, whether positive or negative. We should not be self-focused, but have the ability to identify with and respond appropriately to the feelings and circumstances of our fellow believers and neighbors. So Genesis chapter 31, verse 4-13. Although Laban treated Jacob unfairly, God still increased Jacob's prosperity. God's power is not limited by the lack of fair play. He has the ability to meet our needs and make us thrive, even though others mistreat us. To give in and retaliate is to be no different from your enemies. In Genesis chapter 31, verse 14-15, leaving home was not difficult for Rachel and Leah because their father had treated them as poorly as he had Jacob. According to the custom, they were supposed to receive the benefits of the bride price. Jacob paid for them, which was 14 years of hard work. When Laban did not give them what was rightfully theirs, they knew they would never inherit anything from their father. Thus, they wholeheartedly approved of Jacob's plan to take the wealth he had gained and leave. Genesis chapter 31, verse 19. Many people kept small wooden or metal idols in their homes, and these idols were called the Trufium, and they were thought to protect the home and offer advice in times of need. They had legal significance as well, for when they were passed on to an heir, the person who received them could rightfully claim the greatest part of the family inheritance. No wonder Laban was concerned when he realized his idols were missing. Most likely Rachel stole her father's idols because she was afraid Laban would consult them and learn where she and Jacob had gone, or perhaps she wanted to claim the family inheritance. Genesis chapter 31, verse 32. Can you remember feeling absolutely sure about something? Jacob was so sure no one had stolen Laban's idols that he vowed to let the offender be killed. Because Rachel took them, the statement put her safety in serious jeopardy. Even when you are absolutely sure about a matter, avoid rash statements. Someone may hold you to them. And then Genesis chapter 31, verse 38-42. Jacob made it a habit to do more than what was expected of him. When his flocks were attacked, he took the losses rather than splitting them with Laban. He worked hard, even several pay cuts. He then eventually paid off, and his flocks began to multiply. Making a habit of doing more than expected can pay off it. Pleases God, earns recognition and advancement, and enhances your reputation and builds others' confidence in you, and gives you more experience and knowledge, and develops your spiritual maturity. Genesis chapter 31, verse 49. To be binding an agreement had to be witnessed by a third party. In this case, Jacob and Laban used God as their witness that they would keep their word. Keep their word. And then it has about an article about Laban. Everyone is selfish, but some of us are particularly accomplished as it. Laban's whole life was stamped by self-centeredness. His chief goal was to look out for himself. The way he treated others was controlled by that goal. He made profitable arrangements for his sister Rebekah's marriage to Isaac and used his daughter's lives as bargaining chips. Jacob eventually outnumbered Laban, but the older man was unwilling to admit defeat. His hold on Jacob was broke, but he still tried to maintain some kind of control by getting Jacob to promise to be gone for good. He realized Jacob and Jacob's God were more than he could handle. On the surface, we may find it difficult to identify with Laban, but his selfishness is one point we have in common. Like him, we often have a strong tendency to want to control people and events to our benefit. It's like the people at work. Our good reasons for treating others the way we do may simply be a thin cover on our self-centered motives. We may not even recognize our own selfishness. One way to discover it is to examine our willingness to admit we're wrong. Laban could not bring himself to do this. If you ever amaze yourself by what you say and do to avoid facing up to wrong's actions, you're getting a glimpse of your selfishness in action. Recognizing selfishness is painful, but it is the first step on the road back to God. So Laban medicated others for his own benefit and wanted to admit wrongdoing, benefit financially by using Jacob, but never fully benefiting spiritually by knowing and worshiping Jacob's God. The lessons from the life we learn: those who set out to use people will eventually find themselves being used. God's plan cannot be blocked, regardless of their problems they have with you. Genesis chapter 31, verse 42. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham, the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse in my hard work. That it is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. Genesis chapter 31, verse 42. Okay, I gotta get the mat for now, because